A new UF study shows that reading for pleasure has dropped 40% in the last 20 years. At Peak Literacy, I spoke with the executive director who tells me how this trend affects the kids in the area. Giving back to the community has always been Leah Galleon's goal, so she decided to start with the building blocks of society.
There's so many different ways that illiteracy affects our economy. I can't really think of a more pertinent issue that affects our society.
She started the program Peak Literacy 5 years ago, teaching 15 students how to read. Now,
this year, we're going to be at about 250.
Literacy specialist Sunshine Moss says exposure to written materials and resources are critical in the early stages of childhood.
When you learn how to read, you're creating reading infrastructure in your brain. You're creating superhighways. And so what can make it really difficult for a person is if they haven't had a lot of oral language or background knowledge or access to print.
She says that can factor into literacy rates across populations.
When children start out, maybe born, they're the same, but when they're going into very different literacy environments, they call it a Matthew effect.
We can also see the impacts of this trend in a new UF study. The decline of reading for pleasure in the past 20 years is not evenly spread across populations. Researchers reported steeper drops in participants who identified as Black Americans, people of lower income, and residents of rural areas. UF Center for Arts and Medicine Communications Specialist Natalie Rella is concerned.
So reading has this way of bridging cultural gaps, deepening understanding.
Galleon emphasizes how Peak Literacy also focuses on educating parents.
You don't see people walking around with books, and that's one of the things that kids do is they model behavior, right? So one of the things that we talk to our parents about is like when they go like, hey, my child doesn't want to read, like, do they see you sitting down and reading?
Reading, just like music, the more you have it around you, the more you have people who play music around you, you have people who are reading around you, the more likely you're going to take interest in it.
Moss and Galleon urge all parents to find a way to squeeze in the time to read for pleasure and read to their children.
When you can read, you can learn anything.
In Gainesville, Carolina Tortorelli, WUFT News.